Hey now! What is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka ReviewKingMB, and yes, it's my birthday! So, happy birthday to me. And I decided on my birthday that I feel like talking about something random. Something random, mostly because I wanted to finally sit down and read it. So now I want to talk about it. Maximum Carnage! Maximum Carnage. This is a comic book that when I saw at the comic book store, I knew I had to buy it. I did. I've been so interested by the Carnage character from the animated series of Spider-Man when I was a kid, and I would just the look of him, and he was an offspring of Venom. So I wanted to know more about him. It starts off with Cletus Cassidy. Yes, he is Carnage. He has already been Carnage, and he's being held at Ravencroft, this facility that's almost like Arkham Asylum, where Spider-Man's worst villains go. And he just instantly, somehow, he has the suit back. It comes back. It's a different form, a different version of the suit. He becomes Carnage again, and he tears shit up. He kills so many people at this jail, at this place, that it's insane to look at. He meets this character, Shriek, who's a female who she too is locked up here, and the two of them almost instantly fall in love, which is funny because they're both psychotic. And these two together reminded me a lot of Harley Quinn and the Joker. Not just because they're a supervillain couple, but Cletus Cassidy does have some Joker qualities about him. Just the conversation he has with the guard when he's tied up and locked up right before he breaks out, and he's talking about how he's going to kill him slow, but then he just starts laughing maniacally. It did feel like the Joker. And then this woman who is deranged. Later on, you see that Shriek has her own twisted backstory that makes her susceptible to an abusive relationship like Harley Quinn. So this couple definitely did feel like a Joker Harley thing. So they team up, they're causing chaos, and they run into Doppelganger, which I don't really know too much about this Doppelganger. They call him Spider-Man's Doppelganger because he looks just like Spider-Man, other than the fact that he has 6 arms and has a mouth and looks like a monster in that way. I remember in the animated series of Spider-Man, there was a storyline where Spider-Man's mutation got worse and turned him into a human spider, and it was gross. But the three of them have a fight with Spider-Man, and he's overpowered, overwhelmed. He actually breaks his ribs, which is interesting because this whole story, this whole book, he has broken ribs, and he's constantly referencing it, mentioning how hurt he is, how hard it is for him to continue, how much he should go home and be with Mary Jane, but he can't just sit back and let them do what they're going to do. This felt very Spider-Man to me. I like seeing Spider-Man make the hard decisions, make decisions that I would probably go the other way, but it takes a bigger guy to do what he's doing. Cloak and Dagger show up to help him, which felt a little random, but was okay, I guess. Dagger gets killed, or seemingly killed, by Shriek, and this surprised me because it was like, whoa, all right, that came out of nowhere. And Cloak, for the rest of the story, wants revenge and constantly is going after them to kill them. I mentioned Mary Jane, and I want to mention her right now because Mary Jane, in some ways, annoyed the hell out of me in this story. And look, I get it. She is married to Peter at this point, and so she cares about him. She doesn't want to see him die. She doesn't want to see him end up like Harry Osborn, which we find out before this story. Harry Osborn is dead. They go to his funeral. He apparently became the Green Goblin, the new Goblin, and went after Peter, and they had a whole fight, and he ended up dying in the fight, and Peter is broken up over it, blames himself for the death, and wishes he could do something different. So that's interesting. That plays into Spider-Man's constant back and forth on whether or not he should kill Carnage. And Mary Jane, like I said, she does not want him to be Spider-Man. She at least wants him to take a break for like a week or two. And again, I understand it. She's upset. She doesn't want to lose him. But at the same time, when shit really gets bad, when Carnage and company are destroying the city, and I mean destroying the city, that's not an exaggeration. They're causing some serious death and destruction. She's still like, "What are you doing?" It's like, Mary Jane, come on. I mean, let's understand where he's coming from. And there's even a moment where she goes to a club to dance with other guys just to almost spite Spider-Man, Peter Parker, and I was not really into that. She also smokes cigarettes, which is funny when Peter Parker gets on her for smoking. And Richard Parker, yes, Peter Parker's father, apparently a few weeks before this showed up with his mother as well. The two of them apparently spent 20 years in a prison, a Soviet prison. And there's a moment when Richard and Peter Parker have this conversation where Richard is so angry and so pissed off at humanity, saying that there's no good people in the world, that the world is full of bad people and everyone has a dark side. And it was intense. It was a serious scene. It was something that even Peter Parker thinks about and contemplates later on whether or not his father was right. I thought this was very interesting to have put into this, especially the comment when Richard says that Uncle Ben died because he thought too good of people, and that was his weakness. And that was almost eerie to read, but he said it. And some of these other villains, and there's so many characters that just pop up randomly, like the Demo Goblin or Demo Goblin. I'm not too familiar with this character as well. He looks like just another version of the Green Goblin because there's so many of that, the Hobgoblin and the New Goblin. Carrion shows up, and it's so funny that like Carnage and Shriek and these characters will be doing what they're doing, going through the streets, and then another villain just looks over and says, "Oh, what are they doing? That looks like fun. Let me join in." And they just join in and join the group, and there's a point where there's like 6 of these villains. Not the Sinister Six, but there's just so many of them that Carnage is leading, which is funny to think of Carnage leading anyone. But it's comical only because some of the biggest complaints for any Spider-Man movie, mostly Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2, is what? Too many characters or too many villains. And these comic books are filled with too many characters and too many villains. I'm not necessarily degrading the storyline or the comic book because I quite enjoyed the book. I did. But it's funny that a lot of the complaints from the movies, which sure is a different medium and might not always work in that aspect of storytelling, but still it's very much prevalent in the comic books. For example, Spider-Man gets a bunch of help from a bunch of heroes. I mentioned Cloak and Dagger. Also, Iron Fist shows up. Deathlock shows up. Black Cat, which makes more sense, a part of his rogues gallery. And then Venom shows up. You see him in San Francisco. He sees what's going on the news, and he just goes to New York and starts the help. Well, he does want to kill all of these villains, Shriek and Carnage especially. And Spider-Man constantly says, "Hey, no, we can't do this. We can't kill." But Venom does not care. Venom is thinking we should kill Carnage. And there are some moments where I agreed with Venom, where I said, yeah, Carnage is too out of control. He is killing a lot of people in Central Park or wherever they go. There's so many dead bodies. This is why I can't think of Venom without Spider-Man. Because whether he's his villain or whether he's his partner temporarily, reluctantly, they just bounce off of each other so well that it's the perfect yin and yang. And I like how Venom was used here. There are moments where he outsmarts Carnage. Captain America shows up at one point to help save the day. So guys, I hope you enjoyed me giving my thoughts and talking about Maximum Carnage. What do you think of this book? Do you enjoy it? What are some of your favorite moments in it? What do you think of Carnage as a villain, his connection to Venom? What do you think of Mary Jane being a little annoying? Like, comment, subscribe. Later!